Welcome to Kirby Stephen, and we're what you might call off the beaten track. But isn't that the perfect place to take Subaru's brand new electric vehicle, the Solterra? And yes, it's got xDrive, however, can it off-road like a classic Subaru? I'm Ben Quirk, welcome to Planet Auto. Now Subaru have been making SUVs for a fair few years, but as I mentioned, this is their first electric. So it's a completely new platform developed for EVs, meaning batteries across the floor which don't limit cabin capacity. So it's perfect for, well, I suppose a new era of Subaru. Now over the years, you've seen their mild hybrid systems, e-Boxer. And in case you're wondering, the Boxer engine was actually invented in 1965, but it was only electrified in the last few years. But it shows you can develop and develop and develop. Now the thing about Solterra, it doesn't look typically Subaru, but at the same time they have added some things that you may recognise from previous gens. For example, some of the interior finishes, some of the styling. I mean, to be honest, it's a handsome looking vehicle. What it does is just takes, well, Subaru to a whole new level. Now ours is all singing and dancing, and we've got the Touring. Now you could go for the Limited, and that starts at around £50,000. Ours is closer to 53,000, but for that you get a fair few extras. But to be perfectly frank, base level isn't really base level. You get some serious safety, you get some really clever systems, and on ours we've got adaptive LED beams. It looks rather futuristic, but not to the point that it draws away from Subaru. So the powertrain, fully EV as we mentioned. There's one battery size, 71.4, 257 miles on this, but it is a touch longer on the Limited. But the range does seem to reflect what you actually get. Now, dual motors. So you've got one on the front axle and one on the rear axle. And before you ask, yes, it's X mode. So it does have proper Subaru Calibre. Now it's going to be a different system to obviously the petrol engines. And when you look at some of the angles, well, you'd be amazed, to be honest. Rest assured, it'll do far more than you'd actually give it credit for. It really does hold up to Subaru's name. And it is permanent all-wheel drive. As far as cover goes, you get a 3-year, 60,000 mile warranty and an 8-year battery warranty. And well, I think it's the change Subaru's been looking for. And I suppose it's the kind of colour that you relate to Subaru. It's such a different look. The semi-clamshell bonnet, the wraparound headlamps, even the, I suppose it's like air intakes here. And look, headlamp washers, wouldn't be a Subaru without those. As you'd expect, because it's an electric vehicle, it doesn't need a grille. The mix of colours, the little fogs down here. Also this aggressive splitter at the front. Yeah, it looks rather smart, especially when you combine it with the two-tone and this black insert here. Big windscreen, lots of tech and safety, automatic lights, they're LED, and you've got high beam assist. They're also adaptive. Pedestrian and bicycle detection, radar, sensors, you name it. It's what you call safe. But that's not surprising. Subaru's EyeSight System was always one of the best, and it's now called Safety Sense. Because the likelihood is, it is worked in with Toyota. And that's not a bad thing either. And yes, that's the front camera. You've also got parking sensors. Considering it's what you call a standard SUV as opposed to an off-roader, it's amazing where this will actually get you. You can tell it means business. Big plastic cladding, 19-inch wheels, but there is a choice. It's also got a decent profile, which means it's good on-road and off-road. Now you get a real feel for how high the ride height is. You've got doors that cover the sills, and these chunky side skirts. It's just very well executed. The silhouettes, look at the slope. Big mirrors, and if you've noticed, any accents, bar the door handles, are black. It's a really impressive colour scheme on this. Keyless entry, and all you need to do is present your hand and it unlocks. The door opens nice and wide. Lovely padded areas. Yeah, there are hard touches, but overall it's very nice. Ooh, I nearly bought an Impreza wagon 25 or so years ago, and it had this type of material on the seats. And I remember thinking, ooh, Farmer Edition, I like that. I should have bought that car, to be honest. But the fact that they reflect it in their new interiors, nice touch that. Both seats are electrically adjusted, but it's only this one with height. And yes, you've got memory function too. power folding door mirrors, and you can override it. Now there's some clever technology on this. The car monitors to make sure nothing's going to come up and sideswipe your door, so that's good. It also tells you if you leave things on the back seat. And yes, you do have a grab handle. In fact, there's one above every door. I really like this. I think primarily because it's like climbing into a cockpit. You've got this floating dash here, big infotainment screen and digital cluster. Nice chunky indicators and reach and rake in the steering wheel. Power tailgate, your high beam assist. It's normally on the stalk. It means you can actually disable it. Now that's a nice clunk. Solid build quality. Everything from this centre area through to the door cards. Yeah, you'll find hard plastics. Nice bit of design style. Lovely centre area and an armrest that's wide enough for you and your passenger. And also I think, yes, it slides forward, perfect. Now this is a clever addition. Little cupboard means that you can wirelessly charge, but it also means you can't fumble for your phone, which as we know now is massively against the law. So yeah, clever thinking. Charging points and they're USB-Cs. This is standard USB. We've also got keyless go. Interesting location for it too. The other thing about this is proper physical buttons. Not too many rotaries bar this one. And you push and twist right to put it in drive or left to put it in reverse. And you do have paddles on the back of the wheel, and this adjusts your regen. Also 2-pedal system as you'd expect, but you've got a nice footrest, fairly chunky. So you've got your drive modes, so eco, power and normal. X mode, which means you can apply things like snow and dirt. And to be perfectly honest, it's strange not to have an extra screen up here where you can see your X mode, but the system does work well, and you can see most of it through here. Dual zone climate control with a nice and clear digital readout. Your heated seats are located here, 3-stage. We also have a heated steering wheel and this eco mode. That's 1-pedal driving, so you essentially don't need to brake. Electronic handbrake with hill start assist. Moving to the infotainment screen, it's a decent size. It's nice and responsive, and it's simple to use, intuitive. You've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, navigation and DAB radio, and it's got lots of functionality. This is also where you'll bind your car to the Subaru Care app, and it'll allow you to do scheduled charging, you can check the status, and rather easy to bind. You just literally have a QR code and then on-screen commands. You've got adaptive cruise telephony, and then you can also scroll through your cluster. It's nice and straightforward, and you can see your safety, you can see media, 360 camera, you've got AEB, collision detection, mitigation systems. But that's not surprising because Subaru's EyeSight system was one of the best that we'd ever seen. It's a spacious interior, it's comfortable, you've got supportive buckety seats, they're well trimmed, and yes, if you do see any leather, it's faux. There's also recycled materials being used, and you've got airbags in your seats. I've still got, even with a sunroof, about maybe an inch, which isn't bad because your head is here. Interesting to see no glove box, but you do have your manual stowed down here. And Annabelle would be rather happy because we've got adjustable seatbelt height. Perfect family SUV with off-road capabilities. What's better than that? Let's take a look in the back. Discs all round, decent wheel arch space too. So a fair bit of articulation if you do so need it. The styling here, just the colour combinations. Now I expect this to be rather easy to climb into. Let's find out. Well, the door opens nice and wide, and a soft padded area, excellent. Start as you mean to go on. Climbing in. Yeah, you do have to duck your head a little bit, but apart from that, no, it's very simple and easy to climb into. And even with this seat set for me at 6'3", I've got decent room here. Mat pocket, can get my feet under the seats. Also, that's a nice touch, they're illuminated. And the sound system, in a word, is banging. You've got a sub in the back, and we've got a Harman Kardon. I think it comes with around 12 speakers. Apologies for the light. As you know, it's winter, so if it's not windy and raining, then it's dark. Now, we've got big panoramic. If you've noticed, it's got this beam across it as well, but it is actually one piece of glass, so it does let a lot of light in. Also, big back window. Quite a wide window. Also, the height's not too bad either. And yes, I can see glass as opposed to a piece of roof. And an interior rear light. Pull down armrest, 2 cup holders, and mobile phone storage. And this is a really nice feature. 3-stage heated seats in the rear, and they're individual USB-Cs. And you do have reclining seats. Finally, ISOFIX points and airbags around the vehicle. It would have been nice to see some padding here, but it's not a deal breaker. When it comes to charging, push here and it'll pop out. Nice chunky hinge. This is a charging light, and this also illuminates so you can see at night. Now it'll home charge, it'll type 2, that means wall box or public charger. It'll also rapid charge up to 150 kilowatt. Nice and simple. It's amazing how many EVs, when you come to the rear, look more like a light show. Slim down LED lights, nice and clear to see. Also some rather aggressive and wide styling. I mean, the flow of the rear lenses. But I suppose when you look at something like this, airflow, etc., it's all to make this efficient. To be honest, it just looks as aggressive from the back as it does from the front. One thing that really stands out to me is this rear diffuser styling. Also, you now get a proper look at this rear spoiler. Rear parking sensors, reversing camera, cross traffic alert. I missed last night that you've got this smart little ducktail spoiler. Very retro. And it's not just smart in looks, it's also got smart technologies like power tailgate. It's nice to see a tailgate that I can virtually stand under. The thing about electric SUVs is, invariably, they don't have a boot lip, which makes it really easy to load. Overall, it's a decent sized boot. We've also got some shopping bag hooks, an interior light, and tethering points. And when it comes to dropping the seats, well, that's simplicity. You just literally pop this up, voila! To remove, quite aptly, this stows under here. And your charge cable. This actually lifts out. Seems pretty sturdy. Now it doesn't lay entirely flat, but it's pretty damn close to it. And they've done a really good job of covering any of the gap. Quite easily get, say, a couple of mountain bikes in there. To pop the bonnet, just pull this. Nice and easy to unlatch. Push this left, and ta-da. Now no struts. Looks very EV to me. Yes, it does have a heat pump. Nice and easy to see where to top up your fluids. Interesting to see no frunk. It's not the heaviest bonnet either, so that's good news. Welcome behind the wheel of the all-new Subaru Solterra. Now this is their first electric vehicle. It's an SUV and it's on a completely new platform. And the layout of the vehicle essentially is batteries along the bottom, and you've got an electric motor at the front and an electric motor at the rear. So yes, before you ask, it is permanent four-wheel drive. You wouldn't really expect anything less from Subaru, would you? And the way that the system works is, when it detects a slippage, then it will put power through and start balancing left, right and centre, and essentially levelling the vehicle up and giving it better grip and making sure that it stays well planted, which isn't really a problem for this anyway because of its weight. That's the thing about electric vehicles, they do feel literally glued to the road. And what comes with that is perfect handling. I mean, you've even got what you call a sporty steering wheel on this. Now because it's all-wheel drive, it can get away pretty quickly. That's power mode. On motorways, yep, pretty much no road noise. Mind you, obviously that depends on the surface, but we're travelling at just over 65 miles an hour. The adaptive cruise control was always very good with Subaru's EyeSight system, and it's transferred to this. So it's responsive, gets up to speed nice and quickly, but it's not lightning quick. And it's nice and simple to change things like the distance. Just button on the steering wheel. It's very simple to use once you get the hang of it. You can see when you're regenning, when you're putting power down. It's nice and simple to see things like your adaptive and other safety, including your road sign recognition. Interestingly, when you're in adaptive, it does use regen, so that's great to know. Because this has got, what is it, 257 miles of range on the Touring?
And the thing is, with it being such a damp and foggy day, we've needed to have the fans on low, just to make sure we've got good visibility and we keep our feet warm.
But yeah, I was going to say, it's not the warmest either, is it?
No, it was a shock to see it drop 30 in just a blink of an eye.
Yeah, but if you press it again, it will then go up.
Yeah.
However, if you look at the infotainment system and things like the heating, you can see you've got an eco mode. And interestingly, that puts it back up. Even though it's got the heated steering wheel on full whack and the seats. Still can't quite get my head around that one.
Maybe it's some kind of Subaru sorcery.
Well, that's it. Subaru have been making vehicles since, what was it, 1953?
Yeah.
So they've learned a thing or two. If you travel at around 60 miles an hour, it'll use Well, it's claiming 2.4 miles kilowatt hour. So we were getting probably 2 miles per one. I mean, the closer you get to 70, then it's pretty much mile for mile. But you expect that. But where this comes into its own is on A and B roads. Then it becomes really economical. We're now heading to Kirkby Stephen. Now, it's not the most refined road in the world, so the road noise has increased, but bear in mind we're on 19-inch wheels, and as soon as you find a nice bit of tarmac, it quietens down. As for wind noise, it's not bad at all. It ticks so many boxes. Decent big windscreen, great visibility throughout, and you've got a high ride height, which means you've got, well, a command of the road. It's a rather nice vehicle to drive.
It's also a rather nice vehicle to be a passenger in.
Yeah, it's comfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
And that's for driver and passenger. But the other thing is, it's rather engaging. Yes, it's got body roll, but that adds to comfort. But it's rather nimble and agile too, but that makes perfect sense due to its weight. When it comes to parking, manoeuvring, that kind of thing, well, it's child's play, to be honest. You've got big mirrors, you've got a decent rear window, you've got a 360 camera. That's not a bad turning circle, that, is it? No. This is lovely and weighty. Great feedback. Nice direction. It's a nice driver's experience, to be honest. It's got decent acceleration, and you've got 3 driving modes. You've got normal, eco, and power. And it does transform it. It also changes the regen. Speaking of regen, you can adjust that with the paddles on the back of the wheel. That's something that I really like about EVs. It doesn't matter how steep the hill gets or anything.
They just eat it up, don't they? They just go for it.
Saying that, the adaptive does recognise sharp bends.
Oh.
Got some power, hasn't it?
It's wonderful.
I think by the time we get to Kirkby Stephen Village, we'll probably have recouped 2 or 3 miles. Suspension. Well, it's never been a problem on a Subaru. It's the same on this. Even with its weight, it's still comfortable, it's pliable, you've got movement in the arches. It's just it's a really good all-rounder, to be honest. And we're regenning for England now. Now, I said this has got lots of safety. For example, it does actually have something that monitors your face to make sure that you're actually looking at the road. And that's the other thing about the safety on this.
Take the first exit.
The whole system just doesn't nag you. And around 50 grand, I don't think that's a bad price, especially if that range actually reflects what you get. I mean, yes, it's going to drop in the winter months, but you expect that. But I'm happy when I look at 56 miles, do 3 miles, and it's still at 56 miles. It doesn't try and inflate the range. No, it's a joy to drive.
As we've said before, in terms of what we look for in these kind of vehicles, it's ticking a lot of boxes, isn't it?
Yeah.